So you can see the wire coming in. I've run it along the back here, along the edge, and then right up to the battery. So we'll connect the hot side here, the negative side here. Well, y'all, the road is calling me on another adventure. I am headed out the second week in September on another big adventure, going out to New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and maybe some other places. And going to be camping, boondocking in my little Subaru Crosstrek again. And so it'll probably be over 30 days, and it's going to be probably around 6,000 miles. So I can't wait. But before I go, I've got a few things that I need to do. I've got a new power station. This is the real popular Bluetti Elite 200 V2. It's the one Bob Wells loves so much, and it's the one that a lot of the van life and RV folks have been raving about and loving. I am, at this point in time, full disclosure, I am not monetized. I am not sponsored by anybody. I just bought these things, and I'm just going to tell you about a couple things that I'm going to install on the car, just because I thought they'd be interesting and it might be of help to someone else. Maybe someday people will send me fancy things like this for free, but right now they don't. So I have ordered and just received, or a while back, a Bluetti DC to DC. It's called a Bluetti Charger 1. It's a DC to DC alternator charger. On my last big trip, I was constantly worrying about power, afraid I would run out of power, worried about being able to charge the power station back up. And I was charging off the little 12 volt DC port in the car. You know, the little round one that us old folks used to know it as the cigarette lighter, but now it's just a charging port. It's a DC 12 volt port, and those only charge up to around 100 watts an hour. I think when I was charging, I was getting 96 watts per hour. So it takes a while. You know, if I run an electric blanket all night and run a kettle in the morning and run a hair dryer a little bit, and you know, charge up my lights and my phone and tablet and fans and stuff like that. Well, you know, I might use 2, 3, 4, 5, 700 watts of power and need to charge it back up. So plugging it into the car in that little port, you know, it was taking, you know, it could take hours to charge it back up. So the good thing about this Charger 1 is it charges up to 560 watts per hour. It connects, you connect it to the battery, and so it uses the alternator on the car to send a current back to this charging block, and then from there it goes into the power bank and charges up to 560 watts per hour. So you can charge it pretty quick. You can use the car as a generator and not have to worry about solar, not have to worry about carrying a generator with you or finding shore power to plug into. So what I want to do, though, is show you how I'm going to install this on my 2024 Subaru Crosstrek. I've looked at all sorts of videos. I've looked at every forum, and no one has really done a good video showing on a late model Subaru how to properly install this. Some people have rigged it up. Some people have run this cable up through the hood hinge and around and across the door threshold and across the seal for the door. That's really not the proper way to do it. There's all sorts of things that could go wrong, and I just don't want to do it that way. I want to do it the proper way. I'm going to run it right through the firewall, and I'm going to show you step by step how I do that so that it will be easy for someone else that comes along and looks for a video on how to do it. So let's stop this here, and then we'll go outside and get started installing this on the vehicle. Okay, so here we go. We're going to connect it. After we get it installed, we'll be connecting it to the battery. We'll be connecting the red wire to the positive side and the black wire to the negative side. We'll just unscrew these bolts, and we'll put that on there, and we'll screw that in. Now this wire, and this box will go inside the car, and the power bank will go inside the car. This wire has to get from the battery through the firewall. Every vehicle has a firewall to protect you. If the engine or the electronics catch on fire, it protects you. So you've got a metal wall between the engine bay and the cabin, and it's covered with a thick fireproof insulation as well. So you have to go through there. On older vehicles, there were sometimes multiple places to go through the firewall. On this vehicle, on a late model Subaru, there's only one. Some people claim that there's a second one on the passenger side in the footwell. I can't find it. If it's there, it's not easily accessible. The only one that's easily accessible is this big one right here. You can see it's soft. It's soft rubber. All the electronics that go into the car go through there. You can see these big wires that are running into there. And what some people have talked about doing is cutting this and going in with those other wires. I have discovered you don't have to cut it. If you'll look, let me give you a closer look here. Let me zoom in a little. So here's a closer look. This is the rubber boot. You can see if I push on it, it's real soft rubber. It protects, keep water and dust and elements from getting into the car. All the electronics for the car, these wires run in through there. Now, other people have cut an opening here to run the Charger 1 through there. I've discovered you don't have to cut this. See this flap right here? This flap, if you lift that up, it's like an envelope. It folds over. Up underneath there is an opening into that, so you don't have to cut it. You can run it up underneath that flap and run it to the inside. So now let me go on the inside and show you where it comes into the car there. Okay, on the inside of the car, under the driver's side dash, up underneath, on this car, underneath the gas pedal, pretty high up, right here. Oh, I'm trying to squeeze through. Right here, see this rubber? That's the other side of that. On this side, we will have to make a hole to pull it through, but that won't be any problem. We'll tape it back up without any problem. We're going to bring the wire through there, and then we're going to fish it in right behind the console. It'll go all the way across to the other side, and then we'll run it. We'll take this trim off and run it underneath here. We'll take this trim off, we'll run it under here, and then under the seat. And there's actually already an opening, a hole in the carpet there. For some other electronics, we'll run the wire up through there and put the DC charger under the passenger side seat. Okay, in order to feed the wire through to the other side, I'm going to use something to pull the wire. I'm going to use this flexible thing that I have. This is an old tool that was used to clean out an old dryer vent in the house. But you might have some old tent poles that are flexible like this, or you might have something laying around the house that will work. They make some professional wire pulling tools that you could use, that you could order, but you could probably find something that will work. You probably should avoid using something real sharp like a coat hanger, because you've got all the electronics from the car running in there, and you don't want to damage any of those wires. You need something with a pretty blunt end on it. But I'm going to run this up through here to the other side, and then I'll be able to feel on the other side where it is coming out and cut the hole on the other side. All right, there we go. All right. There it goes, feeding through. Okay, so I've got it in there. It's gone in there. And I'm going to go to the other side. Okay, so I used an X-Acto knife with a sharp blade. I felt up there on that rubber boot, and I could feel where this was pressing against it because it's a soft boot. And I just took the X-Acto knife and cut a little slit in there, and then pulled this and pushed and pulled this right on through. So what we will do now is we're going to attach with tape. We'll attach the wire to this and pull it back through to the engine bay. And that'll be the start of this. That shows you how to get this through the firewall. A lot of people have run them across the door jamb. They've brought them from the hood, through the hood hinge, through this fender, behind the hinges on the door, behind here and then up across this. Well, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. You don't want pressure put on that cord every time you shut the door. Plus, you know, there's a seal on the door here. If you run a cord across there, you're compromising the weather seal to the door. If you go through some deep water, you're probably going to get water in the cabin. So this is a much better way to do it, and I don't think it's very difficult at all. Okay, so I took a roll of electrical tape and I taped these two wires to our tool that we're going to pull it through to the engine bay with. It's taped up there good and tight, and so now I will start feeding this through. Okay, and we are pulling it through. As you can see, the wire is coming through. And it's pretty tight, okay? I had to work on it a little bit, but it is coming through. So you can see the wire coming in. I've run it along the back here, along the edge, and then right up to the battery. So we'll connect the hot side here, the negative side here. I'm also going to do an extra step. I don't know if it'll be in this video or a separate video. It's just an extra precaution that's not required, but it's a good idea. I'm going to install a 60 amp breaker, just like a breaker on your fuse box in the house. If for some reason this wire was compromised between the breaker and the inside where it goes to the charger, rather than getting hot and melting something or starting a fire, it would just trip this breaker. So it's an extra safety precaution. There's a breaker on the other side also, so just safety all the way around. Okay, next step, since we're going to install this Charger 1 underneath the passenger side seat, we're going to have to run this wire from the driver's side across to the passenger side, and I'm going to do that by feeding it right underneath this console, and it's going to go over and underneath some trim under that glove box and over to the other side. Okay, so that worked. You see it came out on the other side here. Now we'll remove this trim and run it under here and then under the seat. Easier than I thought it would be. So I just took my hand and a screwdriver and popped this trim first, popped it off, and then this loose. I'm going to run it up behind there. Okay, so I'm going underneath this trim. There's a place that cables are running already underneath here, under this plastic. There's enough room. I think I can feed this cable back behind that, and then out through that opening under that seat. There's a cutout under the seat because there's some other electronics, and I will run the cable out there. We'll install this under the seat, and the Bluetti Charger will go in the back seat. Okay, the trim is all put back together. The wire is hidden. It's underneath this channel. It goes under the carpet, under the seat, and up through a hole that was already there under the seat. And here's the wire. And so now we're going to connect it to the Bluetti 1, the Bluetti Charger 1. They include a little Allen wrench key that you can use. They're going to go in these holes here, and there's a little flap here. You put this little key in there, and we'll loosen up those ports and stick these wires in and tighten them up. Okay, there we have it. We have the wires under the seat. They're connected up to from the alternator coming from the engine bay, under the dash, under the trim, under the seat, to the Bluetti Charger 1. They're connected up here, red to positive, black to negative. And out the other side is the connection that goes to the power bank. There is a breaker here next to the Charger 1. When it is green like that, it is turned off. And when it turns red, let's see if we can get a better look at that. Maybe not. Red, it's hot. And it actually says on, and that says off. Well, it's 87 degrees out here this afternoon, but I am anxious to get this done and test it out. So let's go ahead and hook these leads up to the battery. I went inside and double checked my connections. I made sure that the breaker was turned off, and we're going to connect this up. We're going to do the red first and then the negative, and then we'll connect up everything inside and give it a try. Okay, that's all good and tight now. Let's see if this will fit back on there. Oh, I don't know if it will. Yep, look at that. Pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to come back later and install the second breaker on this red line here. But for now, it's installed as intended from the factory. And I think that looks pretty good. Wires tucked away. We'll do the inside part now and give it a try. Okay, I've put the Bluetti power bank in the back seat, and this is where it will ride on my trip. My bed platform will come across the top of this, and the power bank stays underneath it. So we will plug this up now and see if it works. Here is our Bluetti Charger 1. These are the wires coming in from the alternator from under the hood. This is where we hook the wires up that will go into the power station here. So let me do that. The power station came with a set of cords. This power station uses this yellow XT60 connection, but the one that came with it uses a smaller gauge wire than what is recommended. Bluetti recommends that for 10 feet or under that you use a 12 AWG wire. If you're going over 10 feet, they recommend you use a 10 AWG. I think some people say AUG, 10 AUG, I don't know, but anyway. So this is a 12 AWG wire, so we're going to connect that up. And these will just plug. This is the same kind of connections that work on solar panels, so you can't screw this up. They only go one way. So let me connect that. Okay, let's see here. There we go. And there we go. Both of them clicked into place. Remember, we have the breakers turned off right here. It's in the off position. It's green and in the off position. Okay, so now we are connected to our cable, and we are going to plug that into the input port right here. There we go, all plugged up. Let me stand back out here. All right, so now let's turn our screen on. I'm gonna flip the breaker, and you hold your breath, and let's see if this thing works. Here we go. We'll give it a minute. This is starting up. And here we go. Here's our input. It's going to take a minute. Here we go. Here we go. 530, 533, 546, 551, 560. So it's rated for 560 watts, and we're getting more than that. So 571, 567. It's jumping around because we're idling right now, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. So yay, big thumbs up for that. I'm really happy with that. So it turned out just exactly like I wanted it to. Well, that was a very successful day. It worked out exactly like I hoped it would. I've been studying and thinking about how to install that Bluetti Charger 1 for months. And I have looked and looked for photos and videos, which I could find none about how to properly install this thing on a late model Subaru. And now we're going to have one. I'm going to publish this, and I hope it's something that will help other people. It worked out perfectly, just like I wanted it to. I did not get the extra. I said I was probably going to install an extra breaker up near the battery, a 60 amp breaker. A few people have suggested that might be a good idea. It doesn't come with the kit. It's just an extra precaution that you could add on. I went to Home Depot and to Harbor Freight to look for the tools to cut a 6 gauge wire. It's got a big wires that run to the battery, and I needed a tool to cut that, to strip that, and to crimp the new connections onto it where I cut it and where it would attach here. Nobody carries tools locally that will cut a wire that big, or that will crimp the connectors on a wire that big. So I'm not going to worry about this right now. This will be a project for another day. I'll get this done eventually. I've got a neighbor that's an electrician. He'll probably let me borrow some tools or help me out with that. So we'll work on that another day. I'm excited though. I'm not going to have to worry about charging this thing anymore. Rather than getting 96 watts out of the little 12-volt port in the car, I can now get over five times as fast charging. I'll get 560 watts as I'm rolling down the road, and so 5 times as fast in charging this thing. So that should eliminate my need for these portable solar panels. I'll still have these if I want to have that as a backup, but I don't think I'll be stressed about power anymore. This power bank will charge quickly, and I can get out and spend my time exploring and doing fun things rather than stressing about how to get this thing powered up. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. That would help out. If you'll subscribe, that would be great. I hope you'll come back and watch again and watch more videos. If you want to make sure you don't miss any future videos, you can click the notification bell, and that way YouTube will notify you when a new video comes out. I'm excited to get back on the road in September for a month and 6,000 miles across this beautiful country. I can't wait to get out there and see all that there is to see in Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah, and beyond. So I look forward to seeing you all in the future. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.